feeling that they've got enough numbers to do the job at the front. But yeah, I'm very surprised at that, considering the riders who are in this group, Matt.
Yeah, we're not too sure what's happened there. Still with 10Ks to go, roughly, he wouldn't have sat up just yet, because Viviani's had a win this year. He's clearly riding well, and as a sprinter, it's all about winning bike races, isn't it? And this is a real opportunity, so he will want as many riders around him to protect him, because right now he only has Narvaez and Ben Turner to look after him now. So two perfectly capable riders, but just to have that extra rider, massively important, as a DSM now start to rip things up in what's left of the peloton, which is reducing very, very quickly indeed.
This is the Dutchman, Niels Eekhoff, the tall figure. Many of you will remember him as the rider who, well, was first across the finish line in the under-23 World Road Race Champs up in Yorkshire. And then unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, it was down to the rules and the way they were unfolding. He was then disqualified from the race, or at least relegated, I think. But people who remember watching that one remember seeing him in tears. It was not a nice moment. I saw it from right above his head on the finish line. I was in the gantry up there watching with a mic in hand, and it was not a nice moment. And thankfully since then he's gone on to write some of his own history as well as a really, really useful rider for that team, for DSM.
No, certainly is. He's putting that that experience, that raw power to good effect here, but it's not, I say good effect, it's reducing the group, but it certainly isn't making too much of a dent on our group behind, which definitely has lost Magnus Sheffield. Big surprise, unless he had a mechanical, but it didn't look like it. It just, again, this is quite a long stage. You don't know how much work he's been doing early on just to make sure that brake stays away. So now Viviani just has two riders with him, Turner and a Jonathan Narvaez, and Arvid Decline still sat towards the back of that group in that orange kit.
We have lost more riders here, Matt. I actually think that's about 13, 14 riders at best. I don't think we had 20 a while back, but there's a few more dripped off the back that I think we've not seen on our screens.
Has gone. That's very tight.
Inside the last 10k, Scott Thwaites just doing a bit of cyclocross on the grass there, but he is hanging back with Marechko. Thankfully, he's kind of sweeping Marechko along now and keeping him up there. Arvid Decline, crikey, if he gets a good result out of this, then he's been playing it cagey back here. I don't know what you think of this, Matt, but I've heard and read all sorts of research that's been done and insight into the most aerodynamic position to sit in a group like this, and last wheel is not necessarily it. Despite the fact you've got everyone in front of you, you get that. You might know a bit more about the aerodynamics of this, but it's the effect of the dirty air rolling off your back, sort of sucking you backwards, if you like. You want a rider on your wheel and in front of you, don't you? Have you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, on it, with it being so exposed here, you just want to make sure you've got as much protection as possible. But arguably, yes, well, not arguably, you do get a little bit of a bow effect from a rider behind you as well. So sitting last man isn't the ideal thing to do. Although quite often, if you haven't got good legs, that's the only place you can hang. It costs you more energy because you just haven't got enough energy to move up. And quite often, the last man is putting a lot more work in at just staying in that position than the riders rolling through on the front. It's quite counterintuitive. You think, well, he's sat on the wheel, but quite often he's having to, although you've got Decline on the left-hand side, he's getting a fair bit of protection from Thomas Kopecky, actually almost acting as a little bit of a teammate there. But no, exceptionally difficult. But yeah, there's definitely one or two riders that have gone from this group. But these are great racing roads, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's actually quite a nice surface by the look of it, but it's covered in the remnants of muddy tractor tracks. If you are just joining us, welcome to the final 10 kilometres. In fact, the final 7 kilometres defo. We think it might be slightly nearer than that to the finish, because we're tracking right the way along the northern edge of South Beverland, the same place where we were yesterday for stage 1, when it was Olaf Koy taking the win, and we have a very select leading group of some 15 or 16 riders that contain within them that yellow jersey, the big danger man. There he is, Olaf Koy. My name's Jez Cox, I'm alongside Matt Stevens, and we're going to talk you through the closing stage of this one, which should be fascinating, because big fast men in here. We've got Olaf Koy, we know we've got Arvid Decline because he sat right there on the back where he's been pretty much most of the time. We have the compact Italian fast man Jakob Marechko for Alpecin Fenix, and we also have the Olympic champion on the track, Elia Viviani of Ineos Grenadiers. Have I missed any other fast guys in there, Matt, from those leading riders?
I don't think so. We've got arguably the three fastest men in the race. First three yesterday are here. We know that. This is the group behind still chasing. they're holding the gap now at 1 minute and 5 seconds. So doing
Welsford
a reasonable job. Yeah,
Welsford's definitely there, isn't he, in the middle?
Eckhoff is doing a lot of work. The 2 riders that have been dropped, so we've got 18 riders in that front group. Arnie Peters of the Alink Continental Cycling team has gone. So we still have 18 riders out in front. The other rider confirmed as dropped is Magnus Sheffield, the young American from the Ineos Grenadiers. So still 18 riders up in front.
Do you know, Matt, I must bring my yacht here sometime. It would be beautiful. It must be a lovely place to keep a yacht. I don't actually have a yacht.
I'll bring my dinghy. I'll bring my dinghy then.
I have actually owned a yacht in my time. For a short period of time, I owned a 30-foot yacht that I inherited from my dad. But I have to confess that I inherited it after he had sort of left it too long. And when I went to go and reclaim it, I had to reclaim it from the bottom of the sea in Cherbourg. So that was the life of my yacht ownership over and done with in one day. In the end, I gave it away to the harbour master and said, you can have it. It's on the bottom of the sea, basically. And that was it. Didn't even get to sail in it.
There we go.
That was the end of it. I'll tell you what, it'd be lovely here, though. It must be a wonderful place right on the bottom southwest corner of the Netherlands to enjoy your yachting, not least because you can go inland, of course. There are so many little interlocking kind of spurs and jutting bits of Zeeland province where we are right now to negotiate. Plenty of wind, I'd have thought, to blow your yacht around. You won't be needing to use the engine very much.
That's a great shot, isn't it?
Wonderful.
Look at that lovely, beautiful avenue of trees. Briefly shaded. It's about 18 degrees here today, but the riders are going to be getting a little bit nervous now. That feeling in the pit of your stomach, preparing yourself for the onslaught that's going to come. No attacks just yet because the speed is that high. Scott Thwaites moves back through to the front. You'll notice that Thwaites, a little bit, a couple of Ks ago, was making sure he was just riding on the outside of Jakob Marecko, just protecting him from those little crosswind sections, shepherding him through. So I'd imagine he's going to want to try and get near to Marecko in the last couple of Ks now. So with only 4.8 Ks to go now, this is where, if riders aren't careful, this is where you could get little splits occurring, or 1 or 2 riders trying to go early. Jan Willem van Schip being one, for example, is not a sprinter, but is a powerful rider, just sat at the back there for Beat Cycling. So expect 1 or 2 attacks.
Yes. Absolutely, you're right. I mean, Van Schip has got attack written all over him, hasn't he? I'm absolutely certain he's going to be thinking about that later on. But there's others in here as well. Dimitri Peskin's a good shout for a late attacker. They've got 3 riders in there, Bingo Pal Sources. They need to make something of that, this team. Although there's no great pressure on them, I guess, on paper, because you've got these dominant world teams in here. It's a wonderful opportunity for the Belgian team to have 3 riders in there. It is big, isn't it?
Oh, no, definitely. And they've already had a conversation within themselves, amongst themselves, should I say, Lauk, Peskins and Dessal about what their plan is. Okay, 1 or 2 riders, okay, maybe try and go long, and then we're going to look after 1 rider for the sprint. That will have already happened in the team car, something that would have evolved over time as well. They've been away for the best part of 60, 70 Ks. Plans can shift and change, which is a surprise to me, for example, that Magnus Sheffield has dropped. We'll know a little bit more about that later on. But now, you'd imagine, with only just under 4 Ks to go, the teams with a designated sprinter, and we know the 3 key ones here,
we go.
We already know exactly what they're going to do as we go over one of these little interesting, rather fetching way bridges.
Lovely, isn't it? That is narrow. And in a way, that was the comment I picked up on yesterday, Matt, when I was looking at comments about the finish. One poster just posted the words "ride to the conditions," and I guess that's one of them, isn't it? That as long as the riders are aware of it narrowing or it kinking a bit, you then ride to the conditions. You know, you wouldn't get those kind of complaints in a cyclocross race or a mountain bike or a downhill race. You know, we rightly uphold the safety of the riders, but part of that is knowing the course and the organisation making sure there's no nasty surprises. That is crucial. But as you say, on a circuit race yesterday, they've seen it again and again and again, wouldn't they? Exactly.
And there are many races that these professionals would do, especially at the lower tier in the Netherlands and primarily in Belgium. Are Comesses, and these riders will regularly race criteriums as well. Had that been a straight-in finish yesterday, I would have questioned it a bit, but as you say, quite rightly, they had plenty of opportunities to see it, but I still think it was quite an interesting finish. It certainly provided for an exciting spectacle anyway. But as we see, 3.1 Ks to go now, and it is Scott Thwaites. Here's the group behind, still being led by the Riwal cycling team. They're about 1.5 minutes behind, just under. They're trying to limit their losses here, because there's still another 4 days, 3 days to go after this. A hillier stage tomorrow, but the stage is going to be fought out by these 18 riders out in front. The big question is, who's going to take it? Remember, that final roundabout comes with only 400 metres to go, but essentially the last K is straight, safe for these roundabouts.
Arvid de Klein is one of the fastest riders in here. He was 5th yesterday, but he has no one to lead him out. He's going to have to freestyle this himself in amongst this group, and we're yet to see late attacks. Scott Thwaites has been doing long turns at the front. He's on the front now, the British rider, for Alpecin Fenix. So despite the fact he's a pretty fast finisher himself, a good sprinter, he understandably is dedicating himself to his teammate, Jakub Mareczko. Mareczko's sitting on his wheel. Scott Thwaites, a big, powerful rider, providing lots of cover for that compact form of Jakub Mareczko. Jonathan Narvaez nodding the head and getting his riders into position. Elia Viviani ready to go. He's sat on the wheel of Big Ben Turner there, who we know has got plenty of power in order to lead him up to speed into this final kilometre. 2.5k to go.
Yep, this is quite interesting. You'd think that Scott Thwaites would wait a little bit longer, but what I think he's trying to do now, knowing that Jumbo-Visma have got a half-decent train here, knowing that Ineos Grenadiers have got 2 riders to look after their sprinter Elia Viviani. So Thwaites here is basically doing the role on the front that basically would deter anybody from attacking or disable anybody from attacking, because it's just so quick. But the risk he has is leaving Mareczko exposed on the front, but we know that Scott Thwaites is very, very strong. This is into a headwind as well. You can see the group visibly moving just a little bit slower than before. So the last couple of Ks now are bang on into a headwind.
Final 2 kilometres of the second stage of the ZLM Tour here in the Netherlands. It's the final stage in Zeeland province before we go all the way eastward to Limburg and the hills tomorrow, or the gently rolling hills anyway, vastly different to this. What you're looking at in your shot right now is as much of a hill as you'll get today, a roller. Here we go. We now have a little bit of a smackdown between Ineos Grenadiers and Jumbo-Visma. Surprise, surprise. But Jumbo-Visma have the numbers, and Olav Koy is in the absolute hole shot right now. He's just finding the last wheel of that lead out. It looks like it's going to be Mick van Dijk, who's going to be the last man to go. Doesn't surprise me greatly because he's a very fast finisher himself. And Jakub Mareczko is just trying to battle for the back wheel of Olav Koy. I think he's got it. Arvid de Klein also muscling his way in to try and get onto the yellow jersey's wheel. Elia Viviani's going to have to go for a long way back here, but that's very much his style.
Yeah, we've still got 1,300 metres to go. It's just Jos van Emden using that enormous engine of his just to keep this group together. A couple of the Bingo Pal Solstice riders doing a little bit of a buddy hop. Now it's essentially one direction now. Gently meander. Scott Thwaites fighting to get back in contact just to see what he can do. 59 seconds to the peloton. They're not going to get back in contact. 1.1 k's to go. It's still Viviani laying off. Jonathan Narvaez on the wheel of Viviani as Ben Turner now moves to the front to try and slot in. This is roundabout number 3. So we've got 3, 2 and 1.
Ooh,
2 more roundabouts still to go.
I thought Jan Willem van Schip was trying by going right round that last roundabout to clip off. In fact, I'm absolutely certain that's what he tried to do. It didn't quite work. It ended up being slightly the longer way round. He's rejoined in the middle of that group, and he's been bouncing off riders having done so. The Beat Cycling rider is about 3/4 of the way down. In fact, it has to be said, most of the UCI Continental riders are in that little bubble at the back there. Somebody's going to try something from that group, and why not? This looks like Jonathan Narvaez, who's trying to see if he can start early. He is going early. That's Narvaez there, and I'm presuming that's Viviani sitting third wheel now. Messy across that roundabout. Here we go. We're into the final 200 kilometres, 200 metres, I should say. Narvaez is leading hard. Ben Turner second. Viviani tucked in, but he's got Mareczko right on his wheel. Where is Koy? Where's the yellow jersey? He's ready to load. He's ready to come off it. Mareczko's going to go early. Jakub Mareczko's gone very early. Koy up alongside him. The 2 leading men from yesterday are going to go head to head. Mareczko's going to get it this time, though. Jakub Mareczko, the Italian, takes stage 2 of the ZLM Tour, and Scott Thwaites celebrates. The Brit celebrating all the hard work he's done. And as we saw in the last edition of the ZLM Tour in 2019, we're spreading these wins around neatly between our leading sprinters, and today Jakub Mareczko gets his chance and takes it.
He took it really well. That was a great sprint. This is the group behind. That was a bit chaotic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ben Turner went. I think Viviani, I mean, good. Narvaez had to go early to get them into position, but what he did, he gapped Ben Turner in the process, almost like a little bit too sharp an acceleration. So Turner ended up in the wind and then had to drop Viviani off maybe a little bit early. But when Mareczko went, boy, there was nothing Oleg Koy could do about it. Again, more in that position that we used to see Mareczko over the years. Very low frontally, a different sprinting style than yesterday, as we see the remnants of this shattered peloton coming into the finish.
Beat Cycling trying to lead out to try and pick up, well, what will be a place in the top 20. They're going to sprint it out anyway. Rewell cycling team, well, they're going to pick up a top 20 place for all the hard work they've done, and they've done an awful lot of hard work in chasing today, Matt. In a way, that gap could have been even bigger, couldn't it? Well, maybe they've kept some of them in contention, but there won't be big gaps. If we look back at the last edition of this race when it went to Limburg, as it will do tomorrow, the gaps between our leading 15-20 riders were tens of seconds at the very, very most.
There we go. That's the second win of the year for this man, after winning stage 4 of the Tour of Antalya. And there we go, delight all round for the squad. Now, that was a superbly timed sprint. And remember,
it was, wasn't it?
This is when Narvaez went early, glanced around, but unfortunately gapped Turner in the process. So Ben Turner just gets onto the wheel here. Viviani opts to hop onto the, and then Viviani here is exposed. You see this, so Viviani's in the wind here, trying to get onto terms with Ben Turner, and the guy that's most sheltered is Jakob Maretsko. Olaf Koy is closing the gap. Teammates shut the gap for him, in fact. Well, that's quite sorry. It's difficult to see where the yellow jersey. There's the yellow jersey opening things up. But look at that lovely little flick there. Olaf Koy had to go the long way round up the inside. But I think Viviani was balked just a little bit there and lost a fair bit of his momentum. And the quickest rider by far, who got it absolutely spot on, despite not having a lead-out rider, was indeed Jakob Maretsko. So quite a chaotic little sprint here. There's that moment. Turner's on the front, but you can just see Viviani not quite on the wheel, goes on the left-hand side, but already slingshotting through the centre. Is Jakob Maretsko. The way that he manoeuvred himself in that sprint was absolutely perfect. And again, look at that low style that we've seen, reminiscent of Caleb Ewan, reminiscent of Mark Cavendish. Sprinted very well there.
Yeah, Ben Turner shaking his head, Matt. So. What did they get wrong? Was it that he went?
I think it was that acceleration from Jonathan Narvaez. I'm not too sure what's going on here. There's a couple of words being said.
Yeah, this is Mick van Dijk, the young rider. Let's see. I'd love to be able to get a mic on that. I don't know, Matt. That might have been friendly. He certainly had something to say, didn't he?
I think it was. I don't think it was particularly friendly. No. I think it was. I think it was measured.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. The Alink rider, Jasper Schutten, sorry, taking 4th place. What a brilliant ride by him. Just pipping Arvid de Klein. If that's correct.